Hello YouTube, welcome to my second tutorial on Java plugins for Minecraft. The last time we made a basic plugin that just ran and that was it. Now we're going to create one using Maven, and we'll need to actually download that and install it so that IntelliJ can use it. So we're going to look for Apache Maven. And the reason why we use this is because for our dependencies for Bukkit, so that we don't have to go download every new jar there is, that Maven will automatically do it for us. So what we need to do is go to download here, and Maven 3.3.2 or 3.2.2, we need that, and link, which one will we get? Get the bin zip here, binary zip, so we need that one, version 3.3.2. Download it and save it. So when we have this done, I'll show you what we do then. Open it up. See, I have the 3.2.1 is slightly older version, but oops, didn't mean to click that. I just want to extract it now. Right, and we'll see these here. So what we need to do is, I need to open up Explorer again, Windows Explorer. We're going to go to, on our computer, it does not matter if you are using 32-bit or 62-bit version, 32 or 64-bit operating system, we're going to be putting it in the same folder regardless. So C, program files, we're going to create a new folder called Maven. I already have this done, so you create a new folder, call it Maven with a capital M, and inside here you copy the whole lot in. You can just copy in these folders and that's it, or you can copy the whole lot, it doesn't matter, because well these three files won't actually ever be used, so I can just delete them like that. And once we have C program files Maven, and the next thing we need to do is to set up paths to it, so the operating system knows where to locate Maven. Okay, so we're going to go to System and Security, System, Advanced System Settings, Environment Variables. Now, see, I've got a couple of ones here for Frank, so you can see here. These are the two that we actually need to mess around with, M2 and M2 Home. So what you're going to do is you're going to click New, and for variable name you're going to put M2. For variable value you're going to put in this. So I'm just going to edit that and show you what it's actually going to be. So you're going to create a new one. The first one is going to be variable name, second one is variable value. You do the exact same then for M2 underscore home, where we have C program files Maven. Now a quick way to get this without actually physically typing it is to, since we're already in this folder, if you just right click and go to properties, we'll get it, the location there, so you can just copy and paste it in here. Once we have that, the two of those done, we click OK, and we click OK again, and now that's Maven set up, and that's pretty much it for Maven. We don't need to go near set up any other stuff again. So I'm going to create a new project, and there's going to be a Maven, right, like this. Click next. Don't touch group ID. Well, you do have to put a group ID in, okay. Right, they've changed the interface to this in the latest update for IntelliJ, so I'm just going to give it a name. What do I call it? I'll just call it TS Frank. Artifact ID, what do we call it? Test project, I suppose. Test project, next. Now this is where we want our projects to be stored, so what I'm going to do is I will create a new folder for these tutorials, since I'm going to be doing a few. So documents, I'm going to create a new folder in here, and I'm going to call it YouTube Tutorials. Click OK. Now we have it in here. Oh, I already have YouTube plugins done. Right, I'll use YouTube plugins. Sorry about that, I didn't actually realize I had a folder for this. It's been so long since I did it. Right, so inside here, we're going to be inside YouTube plugins now. We actually create the plugin here, it'll create it on the root of that folder, but we actually want to make it in another folder itself, so we're going to do backslash what is it, test plugin. We'll call it test plugin. Let me just check now to see documents. I go down to YouTube plugins. Right, the first one we call it first plugin, so I'm going to call this one, I'll call it second plugin just for consistency. So second plugin, right, and we click finish. Now it's going to say the project file directory does not exist, it'll be created by IntelliJ. That means that IntelliJ is just going to create a folder called second plugin within YouTube plugins, and then we'll have a project in there. So click OK, and then click this window. Now this will create our plugin like so. Now I'll explain what's going on with all this. Right, first is the pom.xml. This is going to hold our dependencies and whatever other stuff we use. So dependencies for a Bukkit plugin, regardless, Bukkit is going to be a dependency. Other dependencies we can use is world edit, we can use essentials, we can use world guard, we can use mob, what's the name, mob API or mob whatever thing you want to, whatever project you want to integrate into your own project or vault, or there's plenty of other ones there. So I'm going to have, I'm not going to write what we need to do, I'm going to use a template that I always use. So if I go to documents and where is Coder Dojo, so I'm going to use a Coder Dojo one. So spawn entry, let's say, and we're going to open up this one, and I'm going to copy and paste this in. I will include this in the I'll include the whole project in the description so you can mess around with it yourself. Right, so I'm going to paste it in here and I'll explain what exactly is each one. So file name, right, I'll go back to that in a sec. So group ID is going to be your package name. So packages are groups of folders. You should know this anyway before you get to the actual source files of it. It's just a structure to your project. So there's two folders here, Java and resources. So Java, just going to be our Java classes. Resources are going to be our YML files, such as the plugin.yml that is always needed, and a config, and we'll go to them in the future. So first we're going to go to Java, we're going to create a new package, and I'm going to call it do I use GitHub or TS community? I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I'll just put in com.github.tsfrank. Now here is where I put in the name of the project, so call it second plugin, right? And this is the way I structure on my Bukkit plugins. You don't have to do this, but I recommend on doing it. So for our group ID, we're going to call it com.github.tsfrank.second plugin. And our artifact ID is going to be the name of our project. So second plugin. The version is 0.1. You could have 1.0. It's up to yourself. Name will be the same as the artifact ID. And the description is going to be a short description of what the project is. So I'm just going to say second plugin in YouTube series. Okay. Now here is the Bukkit version that we're using, and where this is actually coming from is, if I copy and sorry about my laptop's a bit laggy, so we go here, we actually see where Maven is getting the stuff from. So hopefully this won't be too slow. So if we go to it's org.bukkit.bukkit, sorry about that, org.bukkit.bukkit, right? Now we'll see all the versions of Bukkit there is now. The one that's currently being used is 1.6.4 revision 1.1, which is 1.6.5 1.6.4, 1.1. See, that's fairly old, but for now, if we only use the latest version, which is this one, we can just copy the name of that. Don't copy the link location. We just want this, like just the text. So if we copy and paste this inside here. Now, if you ever see me copy and pasting quickly, is because I'm using Control C and Control V. I like using shortcuts because it's much quicker, but I'll just show you there. Just right click copy and paste for that. Right, and we go down here for file name, which we didn't change before, which is I'll just call it second plugin, just like that. I know you've seen there was a different name at the start, but it doesn't actually affect it really. I haven't noticed this when it doesn't actually reflect the name of the output jar, which we'll get to later on. Now we'll decide to explain this down here what this does. So when this is the plugin, Maven's plugin for compiling the jar, like how it should make the jar. So what it's going to do is it's going to include all the YML files that we have inside here, but we haven't put any yet, but we will have. Like if we had any other file extensions, like say if we had a database, or if we had like a SQLite or something like that, we'd have to add this here, but we're not. This is in the future, we go to that. Now since this is showing up red, we have to actually import the changes. And you see here that'll come up, Maven projects needs to be imported, import changes or auto import. So I always click import changes. If you want to enable auto import, it'll automatically import it every time you modify the pom.xml. So I'm just going to do import changes, like so. Now you'll see, I think I'm not entirely sure if I used this version before. I have. Right, so if you haven't used this before, you'll see that it'll say down here, it'll say resolving dependencies of the project name. No, I think it's given out about something here, is it? Maven projects need to be imported. I think it failed to get that, did it? In a sec. Alright, I'm going to use the one before 0.2. Now Maven can be a bit odd at times. 99% of the time it works fine. Right. Come on. Some problems are encountered. Dependencies from the version must not contain any of these characters. Oh, sorry. My mistake. Should not be a backslash in that. Sorry about that, guys. It wasn't anything else. It was my fault. It wasn't Maven's. Now watch, you'll see resolving dependencies, importing Maven projects. Right, we'll see there's no errors or anything there. Wow, sorry about that. It's the backslash there. Don't include that when you're copying the name. So we'll know that for the future, not to copy the backslash. Okay. Now we don't have to touch this pom.xml anymore, so we can close it. Now inside here we're going to create a new I'll create a new package and call it main. Right, so main is going to be our main class for the plugin. I'm going to create a new class and we're going to call it second plugin. So since this is a Java class, by convention you use a capital letter for each start of a new word. So it's going to be second plugin, like so. Right. And the next thing we need to do is to extends Java plugin. So we're going to extend the class Java plugin. Now, when you're making plugins, I recommend that you bookmark this. What this is an index of all the classes and interfaces that you can use and play around with in the Bukkit API. Without this, you'd be pretty lost. So I'm going to go down to Java plugin to actually show you what class we're extending. So if we go down to Java plugin, right, we're extending this class. And if we go down to these two methods here, we're going to be overriding these. So when the plugin starts up, the onEnable method is executed. When it's disabled, onDisable is executed. So we're going to override both of these methods, like so. So we do ampersand override. this is just an annotation that tells the compiler that we're overriding a method. So public void on enable, right, like that. So we're overriding the on enable. That's based on the Java plugin class. Now, if we, for example, mistyped this, right? Like for example, if we mistype it, right, this method does not override the method from its superclass. So if you actually remove the override annotation, that the compiler doesn't know that we're actually trying to override the class from Java plugin, it shows up as no error. But if you actually ran the plugin, this would not get called because it's not the right name. That's why you always should use the override annotation, because this tells the compiler that we're trying to override the method from the other class. This is just to ensure that it'll work properly. So now see, we're properly overriding this method in here. So we're going to go to, well, I won't copy and paste, because I'm not going to copy and paste anything when we're writing Java code, because it can easily right, that should be back. It can easily cause errors, especially when you're learning off. I don't really like to we're starting off with making plugins. I don't like copy and pasting too much code, because it just defeats the purpose of actually writing it. So on disable, sorry, I said that wrong. On disable, there we go. So now see, we're overriding the on disable method, right? So on enable, on disable. So now once we have both of these methods created, we're going to go to resources, we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it plugin.yml. Now inside here we'll have several things. First, the name of the plugin. The name of the plugin is second plugin. Next thing is the version. I'm going to call it 0.1. Next one is the description, DSCRIPTRON. Second plugin in YouTube series. Right. And so we've name, version, description. You can throw an author. Author is going to be optional. And main. So name, version, description, and main are the four mandatory things that must be put in a plugin.yml. Without it, it won't actually load the plugin. So you have to have them. You can have author, you can throw in website. Let me just see, I have two websites, so I could just put in, or just put in fjfreelance.com or whatever you want. www.fjfreelance.com. I've got, well, I have actually three websites, but anyway. So we put in com.git. So the main is the path from, let me show you, from like when I go now to documents and I go to YouTube plugins and go to second plugin, source, main, Java, right? So when the plugin is being loaded, it is going to look, it needs to find our main class, which is this class right here. So how do we get to there from the jar file? So the jar file is going to contain all our packages and then that. So how we actually get to main is com.github.tsfrank.second plugin.main.second plugin. I know that's a bit daunting, but you can use your own package names. You don't have to use my convention, but it's usually your website followed by your name, then that's the way I do it, by your name, then the project name, then whatever you have. So then you'd have main, you'd have utilities, you'd have commands, you'd have, I don't know what else, like you have integration for other things. It's just to organize your source code more. So this will explain it a lot more when you look here. So first we're in com. Second we're going to GitHub. Third we're going to tsfrank. Fourth we're going to second plugin. Fifth we're going to main. Sixth we're going to second plugin. So this is actually our class second plugin. You do not need to put in the extension .java at the end. You just need to put in the name. That's it. Now next thing we need to do is to make an output jar, because if we actually compile this, it has no output jar. Like, it doesn't actually do anything with it, it'll just compile and that's it. So we need to go to here, the top right, project structure. There's also another way to get to it by right clicking here, right clicking the project and go down to modules, open module settings, which is here. So I'm just going to use the top right and do it here. So we go down to, now if I show you libraries, right, this is where Maven is getting the jar file, the Bukkit jar file. So we actually don't have to physically go online and download it, like if we were to, like if I showed you that folder we're in. If I actually go into it, let me go back to the history and show you. We get to go back into the history and we go into this one here. You'll see all the stuff that it has, and the one that we're actually using is the jar file here. It should be that one there. It's one of those jar files anyway we're using. You'll see the name of it here, the big long name in it, whatever they have. It must be the 26th of 2014. That's probably the build number, I'd say, or something. I'm not entirely sure. Whatever structure the Bukkit uses. So we're going to artifacts. Now artifacts would be, can be a jar, or they can be other stuff like that. So look, see. So we're going to have it to a jar. Why is it making that noise to me? Right, let's do it again. Jar from modules with dependencies. Now extract the target jar. Do not touch main class or anything else. Just make sure that's checked. Click OK. Now, by default, it's going to try and include the default or the Bukkit jar file into our jar file. We don't want that. All we want is just our source code, because if we're including Bukkit in itself, then it defeats the purpose of having Bukkit. So remove this by highlighting it. Click on the minus to click remove, like so. And now this is where our location of our jar file is going to go. So what I usually do is documents, programming, dev server, plugins. So what I always do is I always have my plugins to be put into the plugins folder of my development server. And we need to make sure that that build on make is checked as well, so make sure you check that box. And once we click OK, we have the jar file set up. So if I actually go into documents, no, I go into program, actually it's much quicker to get there. Now if we look in here, we'll see these are just the standard plugins that I'd have at any dev server. Maybe I might need world border, but I'll just leave it there anyway. Right, so if I compile the project, if we click on build, make project, or you can use the keyboard shortcut or control F9, which I use all the time. So control F9, right, it'll make our project. I shouldn't really have that open, I'll get rid of that in a sec. So we'll see it now, it'll create our jar file and it'll output it. There, second plugin. Right, I'm going to close this because it's just getting in my way. Right, second plugin is there. Now we should see if it'll load. I know we did this loading before, but we just want to show that using Maven, it's pretty much the same process, except for you're setting up your dependencies using Maven, so you don't have to go download every new version every single time one comes out. You just need to put in the name and that's it. Right, so we'll see now what happens. It should load it for us. Give it a sec now. And I don't really need modifier, but right, so I didn't actually see if the plugin got enabled or not, but if we do PL we should see where it is. So second plugin, there it is in the list right there. Okay, so now we're going to add to this. So what people usually do is they put in a message, this plugin's not enabled, this plugin is disabled when this is called. We're gonna, I suppose we could do that as well, but we're not gonna say is enabled, we're just gonna say that it was called so you can actually see what's happening. System out print ln on enable has been called, right? Because every time you whether you know this or not, is when you make a plugin, when it's loaded, Bukkit automatically says that this plugin has been enabled. I've seen a lot of people starting off, they're saying their code, the first line they have is what is it? Enabling the plugin. Like they put a message here saying enabling the plugin. There's no need for that because it's all Bukkit already does it. It says this plugin is being enabled, and then after that, when it's disabled, it said this plugin is disabled. But you don't need to put in those messages because you're just repeating yourself. So I'm just saying on disable has been called. So this is just to see, so you can see when it's actually being called. I know I have a lot of other plugins there that are probably getting in the way, but and there's a lot of crap going on here about what server respond. It's probably a API that curse. Yeah, it's trying to check and see if there's an update or something, but we don't need to worry about that. So that's an update for another plugin. So we're going to build, make this, parsing Java, and then it's done. So we're going to reload again. Now that's done, right? So if we scroll up, then we see there a second plugin enabling it, and then it says unenable has been called. See? And now nothing else happens because there's no other code there. Now if I do reload again and I scroll up, we should see when it's disabling everything. So you can see here unenable has been called. So you can see that how it works, that when this server is enabled, this one is called. When the server is disabled, this is called. Very simple. Now what can we do in this? Let me see. Well, first thing we can do is we can mess with events, or we can do a command. We're going to go with events first, and then we'll go on to commands, because there's actually more stuff you have to set up in the plugin.yml for this. But for events, it's all done in a class or a separate class, or whatever way you want to do. So to start off with an event, we need to implement listener or .bukkit.event.listener. And what just happened there? So if you see, you could probably see me doing this very quickly. I press Alt and Enter to automatically import the class. So you can see it here. See, we need to import every class as we're going along, because it doesn't know what it is. So if I press Alt Enter, and then we need to pick which one we want, because there's different ones that have listener. So we want the org.bukkit.event.listener. You could end up picking the wrong one. If you do, just undo it, and that's it. So you can see here that it automatically imported the class. So org.bukkit.event.listener. Now we have this set up. Now we need to create a method. So we're going to call it public void, what do we call it, on player join. I suppose we'll go with the player join event, right? So there's a whole list of events here. There's actually loads of them. So we go to see all the events here. So we're going to mess with player, where's player join event? Player join event, there's here. So we have player join event, and these are the things we can mess with. So we can set and get the join message. We can also do other stuff if you want when a player joins. It's up to you. It depends on what your plugin does. So we need to pass in the player join event here. Call it event E, or you can call it event. Just I'm going to use E because I always use it. Right. Now there's also an annotation that goes over a method to actually flag that it is an actual, and it's an event listener. So if I put in event handler, and it comes up like that, and then we need to put in a priority. You don't actually have to put in a priority, but we're going to put one in anyway. Well, for the purposes of starting off with plugins, you don't need to worry about priorities, but we're just going to set the priority to normal. Event priority normal. There's other stuff we can pass in, like ignore, cancel, true. We won't mess with that, so you don't need to for now. Okay, so player join event. So we're going to set up a few variables. So I'm going to set up player variable. Player is equal to e.getPlayer. But it's assigned to e.getPlayer. Sorry, because in Java this equals means assigned to. It does not mean equals. Equals in Java is 2 equals, like so. And you should know that anyway. So let's we have the player. So when the player joins, we're going to send them a message, for example. So we're just going to say player dot send message. Hello there. This is our second YouTube tutorial. There we go. And we'll go a little bit fancy stuff in a minute. Right, this is our second YouTube tutorial. So we're just going to send a message to the player first when they join. That's it. Okay. Now, if all we were doing is sending a message to someone and we're not actually setting anything or getting, or if we're not actually setting anything, you can actually set the priority to monitor, but just leave it at normal for now. Okay. Now, if you actually build and run this, it actually won't work. The reason why is because a method, or like if you had another class, if they're on their own, they're not going to be called. They're not going to be used. So what we need to do here is we need to register the events. So we need to call on enable. When the plugin is enabled, we need to register the events. So how we do this is we do get server get plugin manager register events, and we pass in 2 parameters here, which is the listener class and which class the plugin is. So the listener class is a class that implements listener, which is literally this class. So you type this, and the next one is plugin. So plugin is which class that actually extends Java plugin, so it's this as well. So you're putting in this and this. I know this is kind of a bit weird. I'm saying this about 10 second times. Anyway, and so we have our events registered, and now we just build and make the project. Right? So now I'll actually need to start up Minecraft. So if I go to, it struggles to. Alright, localhost. You type in localhost to connect to one on your server, right? Now you see T.S. Frank has joined the game, and I'm stuck in here messing with my other plugins. But anyway, the reason why this isn't showing up is because I never reloaded the server with our updated jar file. And what is going on with this? And that's the same stuff again about an update for another plugin. Don't worry about that, it's got nothing to do with our plugin is fine. Alright, so if I leave and join again, you'll see that it does it. Hello, this is our second YouTube tutorial. And you see that gets called when we join the game. Now, we'll put in a bit of color this time, make it a little bit nicer looking. So I'll change it to aqua. We put in appends, that's what that means, appends the pluses. So Control F9 and we'll make our project again. And we will reload the server, right? After everything's compiled, reload again. And disconnect. Doesn't actually show my mouse when I'm recording, so it's a bit weird. Alright, see, changed it to aqua, the color. And let's see now, what else can we do? Right. See the message when we join, it says T.S. Frank joins the game. That is very boring looking, isn't it? And this message isn't really, it's only got through the tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, welcome to our server. And after we send the message, we're going to do e.setJoinMessage. Right, so we'll store our player name in a string. This makes it a lot more structured, because if we had like a load of stuff going on and we wanted the player name, we'd be using player.getName, player.getName, player.getName. It gets very messy. So if you have it in a string and just call it as player name, it's much better and much easier to read. So if you do player.getName, like so, and we're going to say let me see, chat color dot, let's say aqua. So it's going to be an aqua for the player's name, and it's going to be, should be player name. Of course I spelled it wrong, didn't I? Wow, there we go. Player name, thanks IntelliJ. Right. Now player name, now since we have to put a space here because it'll be all jumbled together. So Tios Frank has joined the server instead of joined the game, right? We can put in a bit of color as well here for this. And put in chat color dot. See, there's loads of colors here to mess with. Dark purple, I suppose. Right. And so what we've done is we're going to send a message to the player when they join. We're going to say welcome to the server. When the player joins as well, we're also going to set the join message. We're going to overwrite the existing one, so it won't show the yellow one. It'll show this one, and it'll have the player name in aqua, and then it'll have has joined the server in dark purple. Now we can either call this where it is, or we can actually call it above here. It does not matter. Okay, now we need to make the project again, or control F9. You'll get used to using control F9 over time. Right, and we'll go and reload the server. And probably we go and we will leave the server and we will rejoin and see the effects. Now you see what happens, right? Welcome to the server. That is the first one being called. First one being called here as in welcome to the server, and then you'll see the second part then, which is GS Frank has joined the server, you see. So that is overriding the default join message, so you don't see the yellow one anymore. Oh crap, I didn't mean to click on that. You don't see the other message that was there before in yellow. Right, so this is going to be it for this tutorial. The next one, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, so I'm going to let you guys decide. Just leave a comment below the video to what you'd like to see, and if I don't get a response in, let's say, a few weeks, I'll just think of something myself. But I'm thinking for the next one I'll do more events and have messing around with them, and then we could go on to commands, and then we could go on to configs, or you just say what, as I said again, what you would like to do. Because you're the guys that are learning, I want to know what you want to learn, instead of me just following something that you don't want to do and you just completely switch off. Alright, thanks very much for watching. I will leave a comment below and comment and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you guys again. Bye bye.